Welcome back to the Foolery Show. I'm Sam.
And I'm Tim.
Two cynics desperately trying to find the positive side to things. And today we tackle religion. Now, I think religion gets a bad rap sometimes. You know, a lot of negative things were said about religion in the past and, have been done in this name. But I think overall, it's a very nice thing to have and inspires hope in a lot of people and can help people be better and do better for themselves and for their communities.
I think it definitely can help people do better and be better, but do we really need religion for that? Can't we be good without religion, without believing in a bigger entity that will punish us for doing something bad?
I think it simplifies the whole meaning of things, right? Because what is good and what is bad? Why should you do things and why should you not do things? Right? When you're young, you're told by your parents, do something, don't do this bad, be a good person or be good this, right? So this kind of simplifies the whole logic of it all. There is no good, there is no bad, but if you believe in this kind of concept of God, it's not really provable, it's not really disprovable. It kind of makes your life simple.
I mean,
it encourages you to do better.
Sure, it encourages you to do better, but should you really have a book that was written 2,000 years ago dictating what you're doing today?
Well, I mean, what's to say that people 2,000 years ago didn't think the same way they do today? Or
Well,
were the core concepts aren't the same?
One of the core concepts 2,000 years ago was that slavery was A-okay.
True.
Right?
True.
And we've definitely grown past that society, right? So that's one example of where we can't just follow things as they were. We should be constantly evolving and progressing, right? I mean, tenets of what we think is right and wrong are always evolving, like gay rights and civil rights with desegregation and all that.
I think that religion does not necessarily play a role in specifics, but in general principles, I think that it has served humanity well over the years. For example, you mentioned slavery. While we don't clearly, everyone likes to say we clearly don't believe in slavery, but there's still slavery in jail in America. Still effective slavery. Maybe not based on race, but based on criminals, based on criminal records. So that's still fair under law. Most people don't really fight that, right? Civil rights as a concept is more on, how you want people to react in society, how you want people to be in society. And I think religion is more along the lines of saying, hey, this is how you could and maybe should be, but law dictates how you are going to be in this social contract. Right, so it's more of an implementation versus, kind of, broad strokes.
So you're
I feel
saying
like it's a good overall kind of, it has some good overall feels and good overall goals, but maybe implementation is where, based on your own society.
So you're saying religion is a good overarching, guideline, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the tenets. So let's remove all of our law. Let's remove the law for murder. Let's remove everything, all these laws. And let's say there's nothing. So someone came up with this list. Whether it's true or not is I don't know. You can believe it's true, and I think that's what kind of makes people feel better about. Okay, someone actually thought to write this 2,000 years ago. Someone actually thought to say, hey, this is probably what we should do and what we should not do. And this is good. We should follow this as a group. Compared to, oh yeah, it was just like madness and we're just killing people. We just decided just to not kill people anymore.
So
there's something good about it.
So by list, we're talking about the 10 Commandments, right? In the Christian Bible?
Sure, in the Christian Bible, 10 Commandments.
I mean, what if, the 10 Commandments was 11 Commandments and the 11th commandment was slavery is good? I mean, where do we come up with the reasoning that says that slavery is bad? How can we just accept these things on face value, like you're saying?
Accepting things on face value is a very strict thing. And I think strict language changes over time. I mean, for example, the Bible has been translated, and also, by the way, there's other books, and they're written in different languages, and there's always something lost in translation. So regardless of what, even English from years ago, there's still something lost in translation sometimes, especially colloquialism and such, right? I feel that sometimes the feeling and approach of it, and of course this is subject to interpretation, is one of the positive effects on our society and encourages good things to happen. Well, can it be repurposed into something horrible, used to control control the weak or control the true believers into doing some hope. Sure, I'm willing to concede that, but I think overall, I think it has a lot of positive features to it.
And so you're saying the positive effect of it is that it kind of incites dialogue about these things in society.
It says the contract, for example, like you have like Greeks and you have the founding fathers in the U.S. and they're kind of looked at as glorified figures. They just came up with a set of rules. It just happened to be how it is. It's not necessarily true. They didn't necessarily have to believe them all, and they did technically just make them up. And by the way, they were also contradicting. You read the U.S. Constitution, says all people are equal. It's clearly not how it was either. So, I mean, what's to say that the Bible doesn't fall under the same concept of that, but in general concepts, right? General concepts of what should and could be done. Right? But I think it also gaps the bridge between nothingness. Between the great, a lot of things we don't know. And that's okay. But sometimes it's scary not to know things. And it's scary to look at the abyss and nothing comes back. So I think religion is a good way sometimes of, having something there.
Right. I mean, I think humans are always looking for something greater, right? They want to understand the big questions like where we come from, what is your purpose, and all that. If religion helps you answer those questions and makes you feel better about it, then sure, more power to you. There's nothing wrong with that. But, religion governs a big part of your life if you believe in one, right? I mean, do you really want to adhere to that? Believe in religion and have it govern so much of how you live your life, right? I think it can be a little dangerous, right? Living a life like that against these principles that you don't necessarily know where they came from, or just because they were arbitrary and written a long time ago. Isn't it better to think critically about why you live the way you do and what principles you believe in, and examine if they are actually good or not, if there are concrete reasons and reasoning for what you do and believe in?
That's true. Then that's a fair concept to think of, right? We always should be thinking analytical about everything comes through. But you're questioning something that's been around for a while. So this goes along the whole concept of traditions, religion and law, because these have been around for a while, right? You're questioning history. I'm not here to tell you that the history is always right, because history is definitely not always right. But sometimes, history repeats itself. And sometimes these things that come up from history actually, mean something. There may be something more to it. Why do you eat a certain way? Why do you drink a certain way? Why do you walk a certain way? Why do you have certain religions? Why do you have certain customs? Why do you have certain ways you do things, right? You're sure. You should always examine, especially if it seems suspicious, definitely examine it. But there is a reason that this was done a certain way. Right? You can't necessarily always assume it's malicious.
No, you can't assume it's malicious, and I would agree that some things that have persisted throughout history, maybe there is something to them. I certainly don't object to the do not kill and the do not steal, right? I'm not saying those are wrong just because they've been around for a long time. But I mean, can we come up with a secular moral reason to do those things, as opposed to someone, imaginary being, is telling us not to do those things, right? Why do we need someone to tell us what to do and to be good? Why can't we decide to be good?
Yeah, I mean that this is an excellent point. Why can't we come up with something? That's because, in my opinion, there is nothing. Why shouldn't you go out and rob someone? There's no objective moral reason why. Like, there's no biological rule or objective rule that says this.
Right. I mean, objective morality is
Nothing
not
that
a
says
thing.
this.
But I mean, so are you saying that the only thing stopping you from not going out and robbing someone is because of religion?
No, but I'm saying for those that look for a reason why not to do it, there can be a reason found in religion. Although maybe undisprovable, I mean, the alternative is also improvable.
Right.
The logical reason is there is no reason. Right? The logical reason is there is no reason. The religious reason is there is a reason, and the reason is fantastical.
I don't know if there's no logical reason, but you could certainly have a moral reason outside of religion to not go out and rob someone.
Okay, but then should we have a moral basis for all these? Should all these things be based in some sort of morality? Should
Yeah,
all our
absolutely,
rules be
right? I
based on
mean,
that?
every society has their own morality, and we can kind of decide what ours is.
Okay, so you're talking more about the social contract, right? More of the social, like we want to live around each other, and in order to live around each other, we have to make some compromises along our lines of what is good, what is bad, what is allowed, what's not allowed, what's frowned upon, what's not frowned upon,
Certainly, I mean,
right?
I think you would definitely evolve socially to that ceiling is bad, right? Because if everyone stole from everyone, I mean, that makes it hard to live in society, right? So, I mean, it benefits everyone mutually if we all just agree to not steal from everyone. So there is some evolutionary benefit there for this kind of behavior, right? But also from a moral reason, we can also say that, well, we believe in the sanctity of private rights and private property, and I'm not going to take your things because it's your property, right? I'm going to respect your right to these possessions.
Yeah, but where does that come from,
Comes from the
right?
belief in private property and rights, right? Like the belief that all man is born equal, right? That's not necessarily a religious belief. That is something that we can just say that we believe in as a fundamental tenet of life and society.
But isn't religion then just another belief?
Religion is another belief, but it's not necessarily one that is necessary.
Well, not necessary, but it is a belief that corely impacts your decisions. And if you agree with its tenets, why shouldn't it be trusted as the belief in private property, right? Belief in private property, the belief in something beyond yourself, right? Both are constructions. One may seem much more fantastical than the other one, but I think they're based on the same concept.
So, I mean, we can take what's good from religion, right? Like, I think, Jesus had the golden rule, right? Do unto others as you want others to do unto you. I think that's a great principle. We can certainly believe that and adhere to that without having to believe in Christianity, right? We can take what's good from every religion and use it to inform how we live our lives, but we don't necessarily have to believe in the religion to do that.
Sure, it's not a one to one, right? Just because we use a tenet from religion does not necessarily mean we have to believe in that religion. But I don't
Right.
think it's necessarily wrong to have people that believe in that religion, especially if something good comes from that religion.
Right, there's nothing wrong with believing in the religion, but oftentimes over the course of history, belief in a religion has caused people to do some very horrible things, right? We have the Crusades, right, in medieval times. More recently, we have the Taliban, right, ISIS in the Middle East, right? Islam literally says to convert people by the sword, right? And that's how a lot of them justify their actions, right? They think they're fighting a holy war. So that's the dangers of believing in religion, right? Without thinking critically about what it is you're actually believing and doing.
Okay, you're more critical of the dangers of complete no not questioning anything,
Exactly. It
right?
goes back to
Not
what we were saying
questioning
about
anything.
just accepting these beliefs or these, this list of commandments that came just because they're around for a long time without thinking about why they're there. It's much more important to understand the reason why these things are morally good or the right thing to do, as opposed to just accepting them because they are in some religious document and adhering to them.
But then what? Then what's wrong with it? Then there's nothing necessarily wrong with it. There's something wrong necessarily in implementation. In the same way, you can use laws to subjugate people as well. I
Right.
think what you're describing is more upon the implementation rather than the overarching concept.
Well, the overarching concept, which is religion, is to believe everything that it says, right? Because everything in a religion is right. Whatever the religion is telling you to do is the right thing to do, and that's the danger there.
Mm-hmm.
Not everything it tells you to do is going to be right. Maybe some of the things it tells you to do is right, like don't kill and stuff. But other things that it tells you to do, like slavery is good, or to your wife is your property and stuff, that's not right. So you have to think about why you're doing certain things and what is actually good or not instead of accepting the whole thing on its face.
Yeah. Okay. So you're basically you're opposing you're supposing for critical philosophy along the lines of religion, and I don't think critical thinking is ever bad. But more on the lines of should people still believe in these concepts? And they're old concepts, and I think more recently they've been evolving concepts. right? Because people have been seeing, hey, wait a minute, there's some issues in their grand design. But do you believe that they're bad as a whole? Do you believe that they're dangerous as implementations? I mean, they're maybe relics of a past time, but do you feel that they have no play in the current world of today? Because I feel that they have installed some of these beliefs, some of the goodness in them, some of the decent parts of them have installed some of the greatest parts of our society today.
I think religion at its core is just a fundamental belief that you accept, right? There's no evidence for it, but something that you believe in for whatever reason. Now, implementation is quite dangerous, right? Because belief is very powerful. I mean, if you're a lot of times the problem is with religion is that you're just supposed to accept it because it's belief. You're supposed to just do it just because. Why do you need to do it? Because some greater power is telling you to do it, or this is what this document says. I think that's the danger there because they're asking you to just believe, and that's a very powerful and very dangerous thing. Like you have to understand, again, like where it's coming from.
Yeah, but for someone who's looking for answers, someone who's looking for answers in a term of where there are really no answers. What is good? What is bad? What should you do? What should not you do? Right? If someone wants to believe in these old terms, and they may not be relevant anymore, times change, people change, societies change, right? But let's say someone wants to believe in these old terms. What's necessarily wrong? I mean, I personally, there's this idea of personal belief, and there's an idea of what is accepted. For example, you have the West, you have a very different culture than you do in the older parts of the world. Right? It thinks that democracy is the way it should be. There should be certain rules with marriage, certain rules in kids, certain way how they're treated, certain ways things should be done, and we think that this is the only way it should be because it's the best way, quote unquote. But you don't know, and we may never know. People may say slavery is bad, but there's still limitations all over the world. And there's the whole of wife must be submissive. Personally, I don't believe this, but parts of the world have been thriving with this for long periods of time. And it becomes of a who are we to question a lot of these things. We may not agree with them and we may change our own thing. But I feel like to remove the whole aspect, the whole concept of it, just purge it from society seems extreme. Especially when, some of the bad things I would say have come from them. A lot of them, I would say. But some of the things have come from them too. Isn't it kind of an overstepping to say no one should believe in it?
Your point about the greater questions in life, like if that is what answers your questions, fulfills just that part of your life and doesn't inform other parts of what you're doing, then that's fine. For example, let's say you want to believe that the Earth is spinning around a giant turtle floating in space, right? And that answers your questions of where we're from, where the universe comes from, and such. But it doesn't really inform what you're doing day to day, and your moral. It doesn't dictate your morality. It doesn't determine whether it's moral to kill a person or not. And I think that's fine. You can believe that religion if you want. It's not going to really do harm to anyone, or it's not going to dictate your morality. So I think so that would be an example of like a safe belief. A safe religious
belief,
I suppose. Yes, you can call it that.
Okay.
I think it's okay to believe in these traditional religions, but probably they may need some updating. For example, like the beliefs about slavery, and then the beliefs about, the wife being the property of the husband and stuff. I mean, you can update these religious beliefs to more fit our more current morality, but why do that if you're already being informing religion by modern morality? Why not just use modern morality?
Well, you said modern morality. It's not modern for everyone. It's modern for the West. It's modern for America, but it's not modern for everyone.
Sure,
and I mean, to assume that everyone has the same rules, right?
I guess I was talking as a person living in Western civilization.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, if you're in another culture and stuff, it's a different story. I think it's hard to say whether being religious or not is good in that context. I mean, I do agree that religion probably had its uses in the past. It was very important as a social function. It's very important for a community. It's important to comfort people during those really hard times. But nowadays, with our understanding of science and how the world is and stuff like that, maybe we have evolved beyond religion.
So what you're thinking is more of religion, as a whole, the values, the concepts. If they make you feel better, and they kind of help you do your daily routine in a more happier state or a better state or a state you may feel more comfortable with. I think that's kind of good, and that's kind of a positive effect where religion can play a role. But on the actual way issues are, on the way people live, on the way the times are, kind of give a more critical opinion of everything you do. Not necessarily to question everything, but especially when it comes to more generalized approaches or generalized ways of discussing or interacting. Critical thinking should be applied to them.
Yeah, it just depends on where you draw the line, I suppose.
But isn't that always how it is? Thanks for listening. Like, subscribe, and let us know what we should talk about next.